Which comedian is super famous but not funny at all? Brendan Schaub. Heard a fantastic story about Dave Chappelle and Dane Cook. He goes to the Laugh Factory and they tell them, hey, it's Dane's night. Just do a tight 10. Any other comedian would go do 45 effing minutes. But Chappelle, he goes up and does a tight 10. But right at the end he goes, you know what, I don't usually do this, but I'm gonna go outside and smoke some cigarettes. If y'all wanna come hang out, take some pictures, whatever, I'll be out there. And the whole crowd walks out. And he's like, so there's Dane's night. Top comment, Brendan Schaub did this once, and the people that were outside came back in funniest shit I saw all week. I worked at the Hollywood Improv as stage manager. I can tell you firsthand. Dave Chappelle has done this before, to Dane. Let's just say what I witnessed also cleared the room after Chappelle walked off stage. Both Dane and Iliza Shlesinger skipped doing their set. Around 2017 to 2018, Chappelle's sets were all unannounced. When he was in town, he'd call let club know he's going to drop by. It would be a disservice to announce it. You see, all the comics wouldn't show up and immediately lines would build. Comics at that level, when they drop in, want it unannounced. They want the raw crowd, not their fans who'll automatically laugh at most their material. Dave does what he wants, as time showed. Back then he'd smoke cigarettes on stage, indoors. One time he asked we remove the tables from the small room. Then he proceeded to bring a DJ, and we had an impromptu B-Day celebration for Donald, which of course included jokes, and blunts, drinking and dancing. Makeshift club. The Improv was a flexible establishment for these comics. At the time the Hollywood Improv was still not fully owned by Levity, and was still majority ran by the family. The store had the private bar and nostalgia. The Improv was your party house club for certain comics. Dave pretty much does what he wants, and is genuinely a nice person to staff and all. Truly, can't say the same for Dane. Dude literally belittled a waitress in front of customers and staff once. I went to see David Spade and Friends once at the Comedy Store. Dane Cook was there and just whined about how he peaked in 2008. It was really unbecoming. As we all got up to leave, the host goes, y'all might want to sit back down, we have a surprise guest. Jim Jeffries. Jim comes out and the first thing he says is, if you steal other comics jokes, F you. Then he continued to do an awesome 45-minute set. Marc Maron also showed up that night. The Comedy Store is great cheap night if you ever get the chance. He's not even close to famous or funny. The closest he ever got to funny was getting KO'd by Big Country at the end of The Ultimate Fighter. That's not exactly true. He was also KO'd in a very funny way by Ben Rothwell. My comedy radio show, The Bonfire, that I listened to makes the point that Schaub literally went into comedy after MMA and was instantly given a comedy special. The dude didn't craft a style or persona before getting something most stand-up comics take 10 years to get. He doesn't have any of the qualities of a good stand-up. He can't make fun of himself. There's really no clearer proof that life is about who you know. Ellen, her voice is like nails on a chalkboard, so I cannot hear the comedy. I always saw her as someone who didn't respect people's boundaries. Then it came she was a tyrant. I was right-ish. I forgot who it was, but it was super cringy watching her force someone to announce their pregnancy on her show by continuously offering them alcohol. It was Mariah Carey she did that to, and what a DK move too. Especially because a week later she miscarried, and since her pregnancy was then made public, she had to also announce to everyone she was no longer pregnant rather than being able to deal with it privately. Watching her harass Taylor Swift over her exes to the point of tears was horrifying. Mariah Carey, I believe. James Corden, a comedian? No, that is funny. Wait, since when has he been considered a comedian? I thought he was just an actor, in the loosest sense of the word. Came here to say that. Type James Corden and Patrick Stewart awards ceremony is a total cringe fest by Corden as Patrick made a jibe at his weight. You could see Corden turn into a 10 years old and having a right strop. James Corden and Patrick Stewart awards ceremony, honestly, and I say this as someone who loves Patrick Stewart and doesn't care for James one way or the other. They were both being a little petty there. Are we differentiating here between comedian and comedic actor? Because Ken Jeong is great as a comedic actor, but his stand-up comedy was pretty terrible. Also, Kevin Hart. His whole thing is that he is short and loud. I really don't understand why he is as big as he is. Yeah, I've lately realized that Ken Jeong isn't actually that funny of a person. Like you said, great comedic actor, but isn't an inherently funny guy. He had his own show and it effing sucked. His acting is funny because it's mostly dry humor, which he is very good at. In stand-up has trying to be normal funny and it feels forced and unnatural. Jimmy Fallon's laugh is about as genuine as a pair of Jordans from Wish.com. Right? Jimmy isn't good at sustaining a conversation, which leads to the forced laughter, because he also doesn't have any sort of wry Johnny Carson thing, and all of that is why I never understood him in the talk show role. But he was never a stand-up. And as a sketch comedian, he could be funny, especially with the musical stuff. It's like people took too long to catch on that he was kind of bad as a host, and now he gets too much hate. I liked him on SNL but can't stand him otherwise. I can't put my finger on why. George Lopez. His older stuff was alright but he's just not funny at all now. Had to turn off his last special because it was so bad. My uncle went to high school with him and said he was annoying as shit. I do have good memories of falling asleep on the couch as a kid and waking up to the George Lopez show theme song. Never seen his stand-up, but I liked the sitcom. We all really had the same childhood. He was way better in the show than stand-up. Craig Ferguson is a effing gem too. You're absolutely right. I went to see Craig Ferguson live just after he finished his show. He came out on stage, said I'm only going to tell one joke tonight, then proceeded to slay us for an hour with hilarious stories and anecdotes from his life. At the very end he said oh yeah, and proceeded to tell a single, simple joke. The setup from the beginning of the set made it perfect. Of all the stand-up I've seen in my life, it's the only set I remember. He's got a great sense of timing, a genuine delivery, and his material is great. 10/10 would see again. Corden, Schumer and Fallon are my top 3. If you're old enough to remember, Sandra Bernhardt was very popular in the early to mid-90s. She was just the worst. She came to the University of New Mexico when my mom was attending. She said Sandra suddenly started mocking the sign language translator and a shitload of the audience just groaned and walked out. At least there were some people in the audience that didn't have to hear her voice. The guy who uses the hand puppets on stage. That guy sucks. My old roommates would always watch his specials. Jeff Dunham. His story arc is crazy. After his divorce he got addicted to crack, sobered up and changed his name to Mike Lindell and started a pillow business.